Hola, Kathy Vick, Deeply Awake. Well, the last time I came to you it was the Lion's Gate, and then I was silent for quite some time. And it's been funny. I've been very aware, very kind of, I wouldn't say clear. It's not exactly clear, but it's quiet. I look back on this project and marvel at the manic quality of just what was going on. And still, there's a part of me that looks at it all and wonders, is this a grand form of mental illness? Ew, I know, but still, it's still there. It's deep. It's a very deep one. So for me, I want to talk about mental illness just for a minute. I grew up with a crazy grandma. And I mean, really crazy. Really crazy. And that side of the family, has their issues. But when I hear my dad talk about it, I am just enthralled. There is a lot of color there. But I can assure you, there was also a great deal of suffering. And as a child, I looked at this behavior. It became very clear to me that for me, this lifetime, mental illness is intentional harm. It is wanting to cause harm to another. And if it can be done silently, well, so much the better if that's your way of wielding that kind of mismanagement of power. But to me, and I'm talking as a child, understanding fundamentally that sure, there are the other labels, but for me, in my reality, for survival's sake, I came to understand that the people who were mentally ill in my life were those who really didn't give a crap if they hurt someone or not. And the vile ones went out of their way to hurt others, to undermine them, to shame them, to bring them up short, to humiliate them, publicly or privately, and to fuck with them. So I saw a lot of it. And although it managed fairly well in the immediate family, it was certainly a generational gift. And so, if I apply that metric to what has gone before creatively, then obviously I'm far from mentally ill. But the problem is that this consciousness, what I saw as, it was malignant mischief. It was jumping to bizarre conclusions. It was bizarre behavior. It was just, like cringeworthy. And, that's part of my family. So I also came to understand that mental illness is the result of something that's gone wrong. Terribly, terribly, terribly wrong. And depending how deep it goes, and how it's configured, it may or may not be curable. There's a delusion around this kind of personality structure that people are out to get them. They're paranoid. And so, when I see strains of that in myself, it brings me up short. But it's understandable, given what I've seen and what I've learned to manage. So, has this been a form of mental illness? Nah. It's been a creative expression. Has it been balanced? Well, no, but I don't do anything when it comes to this. It's about being centered and being intentional, but being in a different sort of moment. So I want to open that up, because my feeling is that what's happening now, especially with the eclipses and what's to come, we're moving into something that is brand new. Aren't we always? Come on. Has it ever been, whatever time it is, on this date, where you are right now? Has it ever happened before? No. No. So, it's sort of a big deal, staying and actually being. You can't really stay in the present moment, but you can be in the present moment. And for me, sometimes that's my big problem, because I don't know how to get out of it. So if I'm like at the bedside doing something repugnant, or in a fight or whatever, I have a tendency to think it's gonna just keep on going forever. I have to literally remind myself that I will probably feel differently in 6 months' time, or in 3 months' time, or what have you. And that life will be different for me in a year. And I have to remind myself of these things, because for me, the present moment is where I hang out. Where else are you going to be? I don't really spend a lot of time in the past, because it's a story. And I've done enough work with my past that I understand that the story is rewritable. And it's fun to go speed linking. It's enjoyable to interact and assist and learn from and give to former selves, or in their present moment visiting. But by doing so and rearranging things, the past is rewritten. If you believe it. I mean, think about it. You meet somebody brand new, doesn't matter what situation. They know nothing about you. Zippity-doo-dah. Only what you tell them and how you present it. In a 3D world, that's true. But then there's these spidey senses. And I'm convinced that these spidey senses become very heightened in situations where there is mental illness. For survival's sake, you've got to be able to predict what's going on, and so that's why, to sort of heal, it's been my deal that I may think I know your energy, and it's a pretty good bet that my hit is correct. If I decide to spend the energy, anymore. If it's helpful, fine, but otherwise I don't really need to scan, and I don't need to have the full Akash. I don't want all of that. There's an essence that the person presents with, their signature, their flavor. And then there's what they say and what they do. And it matters. It matters. A great deal, actually. Why? Well, that's the question, isn't it? The question at hand. Why would it matter how a person behaves? Well, aren't there ways that you behave that you just feel better about yourself? And then things that you do that you just don't feel are the best? I struggle with that. I suppose it's a form of guilt or regret, which is looking in the past, isn't it? And once again tonight I'm struck with this sense that how is it that everything in my life can be so perfectly timed, can be pristine in its numerology and in its trajectory and the way the story is played out, and yet I doubt. I think it's because I forget that the symmetry has been struck and that certain things have come to pass, that I really have been initiated. I mean, you don't have to read many essays or look at many videos to realize that there's something going on here that's unusual. I'll just put it that way. So, I've been pulled by something that's beyond me, but that is home. Home is familiar. Without a roadmap, without, what I mean by that, without a mirror on the outside, saying, "Oh yeah, here." It's been muted. It's been my job to figure out what's synchronicity and what's artifact, what's me making it up, what's wishful thinking, and what's really happening here. And it leads me to think that even the hard stuff, even though I really have had a lot of, it hasn't been pain, it hasn't been suffering, it hasn't been closure even, it's just been a feeling of completion inside. And knowing that I am redefining myself fundamentally. I've been through this before. I have reinvented myself before. And I have a friend who also can report a similar lifetime, that we can both report and demonstrate that we have lived many lifetimes in one. And I think that some people just do that because they can and they want to. So there's been a maturation process, actually. I really think that's what it is. And I'm glad for it. And that can't be a mental illness, can it? I think that there's two different definitions. There's my definition of intentional harm, or just people who are just, they just can't, they have a choice of saying something that is biting or harmful or mean or cutting, and they might have really great intentions, but just shitty. They could say that. They could be neutral. Or they could see this problem that's creating consternation as an opportunity, or even as a cool thing. Something positive instead of negative. It's the choice, And it's this that I feel is wise to listen to. I don't know. I think a lot of us are going through changes, and you can call it chaos. I know I'm highly tuned to this inner stuff and to the different winds that blow, and just how the energy tastes and runs on any given day. And I have had experiences where I was just walking on a sidewalk. It was at MCD. Just walking down the sidewalk, and boom, energetically everything shifted just right then and there. And I knew, whoa, something just happened here. Holy crap. And it literally was like that. Everything was changed. I mean, internally, in the way I thought, in the way I reacted, and what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do, changed. And it just felt as if the whole grid went vroom, like that. It was in the 90s. So, anyhow, I'm sensitive to that. I can walk into a place and you can just feel what's going on. You can hear it. You can hear it. That just, the volume thing, I don't know, my mind's busted. I can still hear it. And so it's been this idea of really being comfortable with what my energetic signature is. If I'm with somebody who has this difficulty in being neutral or pleasant, but has this issue, and because it's a familial thing, well, I have a lot of practice. But I see this consciousness playing itself out in a lot of different ways. And people just there's just so much, people, there's not a whole lot of love around here. And just good manners and gentleness. I don't see a lot of it. When I see it, I really adore it. But boy, people like picking fights right now. Have you noticed that? And it's that sense of I don't know. I mean, I thought about it a couple mornings ago. This idea of fence sitting. What makes you get out of a fence? Well, yeah, if you need to go somewhere or go to the bathroom or something, I suppose. But what gets you off the fence? And it dawned on me, it's conflict. No more fence sitting. Well, I think that implies disagreements, confrontations, and that can be internal, simply internal, of finally turning, that light that you shine on everybody else, turning that within and really looking at what it is that's going on. And then deciding for yourself, what are you going to do? You want to behave differently? You can, You're free to do so. I learned that so profoundly in 12. And people really don't care. If you decide to behave differently and literally respond differently, well, some people get really pissed. How dare you change the rules of my game? And others opt out. And others, most, actually, most don't mind, because it's an improvement. If it's an improvement. And I'm not talking about just idle thinking. I'm talking about really kind of processing this through and kind of deciding, who one is and how one is going to behave. It really does come down to behavior. It comes down to expression. And I think it comes down to authenticity and just confidence in self. And this hard one for me. I'll just, just is. And some of the sadness around all of that is gone. I don't feel quite as, I was feeling really alone, really not alone, but just sort of like singular for a while. Really, 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 really just coming to terms with stuff and bringing things together. So walking into this eclipse is really exciting for me. I liked what Tom Lesher said, that these 3 eclipses are, well, this first one is a lunar one. It's not really complete, but because of the placement of everything, what it's doing is really allowing us to just drop the old, whatever framework or whatever is going on, just completely just dropping. And then the solar eclipse in a couple of weeks, he explains it much better than I can because he's an astrologer and I'm not. But and I'll tag his video on my website. But the solar eclipse, and this is also, I've been doing some channeling privately about this to understand it better. They kind of blend the second and third. It's sort of it's a whole package deal. But the idea here is to walk us into the gate. It's been coming up again and again and again and again. They talk about a gate. They talk about a massive door. A massive door. They channeled about it at the very beginning, sitting in a garden, looking down on your castle. They have used the house metaphor throughout, since 12. And the properties of the house have continued to shift and change and beautify. And I'm thinking that, these eclipses, I really, truly feel they are energetic resets. They're much like hitting the, not the factory reset, but when you have to reboot something, it's like that. And it may be specific or specific areas, but what they channeled to me today was, you tell your DNA what you want it to do with these energies. It's really up to you, your imagination, and your voice. Throw some intent in, and you have a powerful potion. So, it's a matter of understanding that this is a way of stopping and starting reality, and we're doing it 3 times. The first one having to do with the past, the second one having to do with and I love that they're in Virgo and Pisces. I mean, Aquarius I don't resonate with, but I'm a Virgo ascendant and a Pisces sun. So, and there have been such amazing astrological helpers. But to have the second in Virgo, you're talking about the physical vehicle and the self, and competence, and balance. And then the third in Pisces. And I think that's the gate. So they've been talking about strolling the grounds. They talked about how the last metaphor of the house, we were sitting on a curb and waiting for a driver who was going to drive us to our new house, where all our belongings already were because we'd been going through them one by one by one by one, experiencing everything contained in these beautiful objects, kind of just spent sitting on a curb waiting. And I think that I may have been put up in a hotel, because what they're talking about tonight is that I should stroll the grounds of the house that I've been in, or that I was housed in for this interim, but stroll the grounds. And what I'm going to find is that massive door that they kept talking about, that I intuitively knew it had a round ring, and it seemed impossible that tugging on it would open it because it was so big and so heavy. The door was, as was the ring. But it was intention. And I can remember opening it. And then beyond it is a garden. Really beautiful. So beautiful. And a bench. And a friend. And it feels so good there. And you can see down the hill there's a castle. And you know instinctively, innately, that's your home. It belongs to you. It's always belonged to you. And there's no question whose it is. Of course it's yours. This is all yours. You look around and it's just I'm not talking heaven on earth. I'm talking a balance and strength and a power that's fully realized. And, you know, along the way, there's the beautiful vernal equinox. Oh, I love that time. I love that energy. Oh, it feels so good. It's so balanced. I love equinoxes. I'm not a big fan of solstices. Whew, and the vernal one, it's my favorite. And then, at the end of the year, 4 solstices ago, everything changed. So, there's a lot coming up, and I can now speak about it because before I simply couldn't language what I was going through. But now I can, and I'm glad. And I'm glad I could share it with you. So, that's all for tonight. Thank you. Namaste.